This is the Sergio Rodriguez Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sergio Rodriguez Show, a show unlike any other. Joining me right now is the president of the Libre Initiative and a former White House staffer in the Bush administration, my good friend, Daniel Garza. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sergio. Good talking to you.
You know, first of all, I appreciate you taking time to do this because, you know, the country right now is in a situation where everything seems to be inflammatory. I mean, no matter what occurs, anything that involves basically anything outside of, you know, just having lunch is an issue. From the team you root for, sports have politics involved in it. Everything is an issue right now. But let's start here. You're the executive director of the Libre Initiative. What exactly is the Libre Initiative?
So, Sergio, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. It's always great talking to you, my friend. Look, the Libre Initiative seeks to advance what we call economic freedom, policies that will improve the well-being and of everybody and allow all to rise. What we call usher in a society of mutual benefit, of voluntary exchange, basically the free market system, which we feel has been a system that has lifted the maximum amount of people out of poverty and entered them into an era of prosperity here in America, so that, you know, more people have been able to achieve their dreams in America than in any other country. And what we want to do is make sure that anybody who is facing barriers to the free market system, that we help to remove them. Like, so for example, Sergio, in the Latino community, you know that a lot of us, 33% of us, in fact, do not have a high school diploma. That's a major barrier to opportunity in America. Some of us, in some states, 50% of us don't have a driver's license. That's something that a lot of us take for granted, but that is a major obstacle to the market system. And then, of course, 30% of us only speak Spanish.
Correct.
Sergio, in a country, you know, where English is dominant, we need to make sure that people are speaking the language of business so that they can succeed.
You know, I'm glad you went there because, so my mom's one of those people that doesn't speak English. So my mom's been in this country since 1968, my brother. She doesn't speak English. Now, but you mentioned something that really is close and dear to my heart. You know, you guys are trying to set up a system that where everybody can prosper in the Hispanic community.
Right.
Do you feel that, you know, we've heard a lot with the Black Lives Matter movement, feeling that that there's a persecution or a systematic situation set up to have them fail or not succeed because they technically started with a 400-year, or the whites started with a 400-year head start, according to them. Do you feel that we're facing a lot of that?
Yes, the short answer. But it gets really complicated for Latinos, Sergio. Yes, we have to address the injustices that treat folks with position and power and money a different way than it treats those without those things. It's a two-tiered justice system. And you know, you have to experience it from a perspective of a person of color, you know, to really feel it, right? So what we're trying to do is to make sure that we have understanding and compassion with our fellow African Americans, with Latinos, to address these issues, which is why we worked with the White House to approve the First Step Act, which we got done. And so we plan to move forward with another round of criminal justice reform. Now, we should raise our voice and provoke these uncomfortable conversations that we're having across the country. But Sergio, this is where it gets complicated. No, we will not defund the police. No, we will not advance Marxist ideals. No, we will not march against capitalism. And no, we will not destroy the nuclear family. So while there are injustices that are true, that need to be addressed, under that guise, they're trying to usher in an agenda that would destroy minority communities. And I'm not going to allow it.
So here's my issue with that, with their thing, because I agree with you. When you look at the situations that we dealt with as second generation, or really first generation, Hispanics in the country, because our parents were born not here. But my mom came here with $35 in her pocket. My father came here with about $70 in his pocket. My mom slept her
a very common story for Latinos.
Correct, right? So my mom slept her first night in this country in the stairs of a building in Brooklyn because she knew no one. My father knew his sister plus one other person. My parents' grandchildren today live in suburban America. And so I've always find it hard to believe that I've been persecuted or that I have not been afforded an opportunity. My parents just basically rolled up their sleeves and hustled. They did what they needed to do without breaking the law to make sure that we would have better opportunities. My dad used to always say, I don't want to hear that you have to get 6 outs and somebody else has to get 3 to be successful. You know what you do? Put a better lineup on the field, he used to say. It was never accepted in my home. And so I believe because of that, because we always were pointing the thumb and not the finger, we were able to navigate through certain things, get education, which was a very important thing in our home, and come out the other side. Look, that doesn't mean that you're not going to run into certain situations, but the situations that we ran into were really few and far between because we didn't let them affect us in a major way because we were better prepared. So sometimes when I see people that are born in this country, Hispanics included, blacks included, right, that want to blame the system, sometimes it bothers me because my parents had no type of head start and they figured it out.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that? My parents' story is similar to yours, Sergio, in that they were farm workers in California. I was born there during the grape season, and they hustled and they worked hard for 25 to 30 years in the fields and the orchards across America, migrating to Nebraska, state of Washington, picking apples, pears, peaches, you name it, everything under the sun, right? But here's the thing. Had they received a training in English, a driver's license, a high school diploma, they went to the 4th grade.
Correct.
Had they all these things, quick citizenship, and training in starting up a business and working through the regulations and the red tape, they would have accelerated the pace of moving on and up the economic ladder than what happened to them, which was a slow process of moving on and up. And what I want to see is, and what we're working to do at the Libre Initiative, to break those barriers that stand in the way of people realizing their potential. We want to redistribute knowledge and equal opportunity instead of redistributing somebody else's earned wealth, right? We want to improve the person. There's something that moves our society towards one of mutual benefit, where people succeed by helping others improve their lives. That's important. I think it would have been amazing had Latinos been helping out Latinos, to move on and up that economic ladder by building on those skills and those talents that they can then take to the marketplace and move up that economic ladder as fast as possible. Because, history demonstrates that people are capable of extraordinary things, Sergio. But when they have the opportunity to learn and contribute and succeed, right now there's just too many barriers, and the justice system shouldn't be one of those.
I believe the biggest issue with minorities, blacks and Hispanic, is more economic than race. Because I'll be honest with you, I believe my kids as Hispanic kids have a better opportunity than the white poor kid from Oklahoma.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. And we talk about immigrants a lot. I've never feared waves of poor immigrants because that's what built America. They made America stronger. I fear a system that does not incentivize them to work hard to achieve their dreams. A system that I think is unsustainable, which is a Marxist system, one where you have extremely high taxes, a lot of regulations and mandates and rules, expensive green energy, deals, a minimum wage that actually shuts people out of the marketplace, defunding law enforcement, these kind of things, less energy production. That we're fighting for less taxes, less regulations, school choice, healthcare that preserves private insurance, principled judges who honor original intent. These kind of things that actually make it possible for people to move on and up the economic ladder.
Let's talk about the election coming up now. Look, it's very difficult at times. I am a guy who has always respected the presidency of this country, regardless of who the president is, regardless of who I voted for. To me, the presidency is an institution. It's not a person. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to defend President Trump sometimes with some of the things that he does and he says. But nevertheless, he's running again. He's the incumbent. Build a case for me on why the country should vote for President Trump.
Well, so I'm nonpartisan, Sergio. So I can't like.
Oh no, because then I'm going to ask you to. No, and I get that, but I'm going to ask you for both. You're going to speak to me about Biden,
right.
And you're going to speak to me. But if
it's
I'm
a lot easier, it's a lot easier for me to make the case for Trump because I align more with him than I do with the Democrat candidate. Just so you know, so I'm a little biased in that sense.
Okay.
Right? But okay, so. I would say, look, and a lot of people would agree with me that he's seen as a fighter, a courageous leader that's sort of taken the hits from the media, the arrows and the slander from all quarters, right, in his effort to strengthen America. It's almost like he's done it single-handedly in spite of the media, in spite of the Democratic Party. Very astute, I think, at divining the political and cultural sentiments of his base. And I would describe his base as conservative, Christians who are very worried about the direction of this country. So if I drill down even further, things like defending democracy, the Constitution, our rights, the rule of law, free market system, individualism, these are all important. And Donald Trump has done a lot to defend these things. But if I'm going to be specific about causes, he's done a lot to advance school choice, lessen taxes, lessen regulations, make sure that we have health care that's going to preserve private insurances, because Medicare for All would actually eliminate your workplace insurance. I don't know if people are aware of that, but that's exactly the case.
Correct.
So also nominating principal judges in the mold of a Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and then of course now with Amy Coney Barrett. Increased energy development, pro-life, Second Amendment, free speech, religious liberties. I can go on and on. So there's a lot there to chew on. And then of course criminal justice reform. He's proposed citizenship for 2 million of our dreamers. And the 600,000 DACA recipients, these are all strong things to make the case for him.
Speak to me why Biden? I mean, there has to be something that, although you align more with Trump, there has to be something that you look at Biden and say, you know what, that'll work.
So, but let me preface this first on Biden by saying what's kind of difficult is when Trump first ran, he made a lot of promises, and he delivered on those promises. And in fact, those promises resulted in record unemployment for Latinos and Blacks, record labor participation rate for Latinos and Blacks, record wage growth for Latinos and Blacks, and record home ownership for Latinos and Blacks, and women too, by the way. That's what's fascinating. So you saw this economic bonanza that was of benefit to minority communities. With Biden, on the other hand, and look, again, I said I'm a little biased, but I mean, you're asking the wrong guy to make the case for Biden. What you're going to see is exactly the opposite: increased taxes, increased regulations. You're going to see less energy production. You're going to see this massive green energy where they're going to take billions of dollars and give it to green energy companies where the government picks winners and losers, like they did with Solyndra. They lost $600 billion in loans. Imagine that. So I'm not the guy to ask, Sergio. I'm sorry.
Correct.
In support of Biden. I suppose if you want to grow government and government programs, then Biden's your guy. Because fundamentally, Sergio, that's what it comes down to. What is going to be the role of government in our lives? Are we going to rein it in, reverse the centralization of so much power, money, and control in the hands of Washington and politicians, or are we going to reverse that and get freedoms back to the people? So I'll give you a case and example. I talk about school choice. School choice is an issue where the parents are empowered to choose the school of their choosing, of their preference for their children. But Democrats would fight against that and force you to send your kid to the school in your zip code.
Correct.
So that's what I mean about, are we going to let government control your decisions, or are you going to make the decision for yourself? It really does come down to the role of government in our lives.
What's the blueprint for President Trump to win this election again?
Well, he needs to win more of the Hispanic vote, more of the black vote. He obviously needs to expand on his base, and that's going to be, I think, really critical for him. I know a lot of polls are showing that on the national level, he is getting beat. But there are a lot of polls that show in the battleground states he's actually very competitive. And in fact, I think some of those polls, even the national polls, are a little bit wrong, and they're not considering a couple of things. One is, I see the energy is with Trump. I see the flotillas, I see the caravans, I see the turnout to the events. There's just a general sense that there's much more energy in the Trump campaign. And in fact, they say crowds who wait for a Trump appearance will wait at the polls to vote. And I think there's a silent Trump voter, too, who's not telling you he's going to vote for him, but he's going to do it, like in the last election with Hillary Clinton. Also, Sergio, another thing to consider that a lot of people ain't talking about, right-to-work laws were passed in states like Nevada, in Michigan, and Wisconsin. Right-to-work is if you get a job where it's been unionized, you now don't have to sign up as a member to join a union by obligation. You have the option not to opt in. And that has weakened a lot of the unions, and because the unions have less resources and less money because of membership dues, they have less ability to now turn out voters.
Correct.
And using those funds. And in states like Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin that are 50-50, it's going to be a big deal. Also, I think the GOP has made a lot of gains with Latinos and blacks because of, one, the record of economic gains, and the outreach has just amped up big time.
What's going to happen in Florida? I mean, they have, I would say, since Puerto Rico had the storm a couple of years ago, it was 2 years ago now, I guess, they've had an influx of 3 or 4 million new voters into Florida.
Right.
How do you think that's going to affect, winning that state?
Polls show that Puerto Ricans that come to the mainland are actually at a 50-50 when it comes to preference of either Republican or Democrat. Keep in mind, Sergio, that Puerto Ricans vote for Republicans in the island. I mean, you have right now a congresswoman who represents Puerto Rico and is a Republican. You had Luis Fortuño, who was the governor, who was a Republican. So it's not. I think the assumption is that somehow that Latinos are wired left. They are not, and the Latino vote is not baked into the left. When I think folks on the right, on the center right, do the engagement, do the outreach, Latinos respond. Keep in mind a district in Texas like Texas 23, 75% Latino. You had a black Republican challenger who actually took out a Latino Democrat incumbent.
Wow. In
a 75%, Latino or congressional district. I'm talking about Will Hurd, who is now going to retire, and that seat is up for grabs, and it's a 50-50 right now. But even in a state like Colorado, you had Cory Gardner, who got 45% of the vote, in a state where a Democrat senator 2 years before that had gotten 90% of the Latino vote. Cory Gardner, Republican, got 45%. You had Greg Abbott in my own state who won the Latino vote. John Cornyn won the Latino vote in his last election. Chris Christie in New Jersey, he won the Latino vote as governor. So I guess what I'm telling you is when those who are conservative candidates actually make the investment and engage Latinos respond.
The last topic I want to discuss with you is about this push to vote by these athletes, particularly the NBA players and the NFL players who have been on this campaign now to vote, to vote, to vote. And obviously they're doing this, obviously, to try to generate more votes against the president. But I don't see how this is going to work. And let me explain why I say that. While I believe that more people will vote, most of the black vote that they're actually going to gain is in the same neighborhoods where they're already winning. I mean, it's not like you're going to get, I mean, if there are no blacks, let's say in South Dakota, what difference is that going to make there? What difference does it make if you get more blacks from Brooklyn, New York to vote? You're going to win that state regardless. I mean, am I off with this theory or not?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I actually do welcome people who have higher profiles who can motivate our young Latinos and young blacks to actually get involved and fulfill their civic responsibility of actually voting and knowing what the issues are and getting educated on those issues. I don't have a problem with that.
But Dan, let me cut you off there. Dan, let me cut you off there. I don't think they're educating. I think they're just grasping for votes. You know, because while I see them pushing the voting, and I guess that's good, I've yet to see any type of forums, any type of discussions where they're actually trying to educate. It seems like they're just telling vote, vote, vote because you're going to vote against Trump. That's what I see. I don't see them saying, hey, we want you to vote and educate yourself. No, it's vote so you can vote against Trump.
Yeah, I mean, that's electioneering. That's partisanship,
Okay.
what you're talking about. And even there, they have the right to do that as Americans. Just because they're athletes, that doesn't mean that they don't have the right to actually get involved in electioneering and actually campaigning for their preference. If that's what they wish to do. Look, my sense is as the NBA has gotten more politicized, viewership has dropped off because I personally don't watch sports to learn about politics.
1,000%.
Thank you very much. Right. I watch sports because I root for my team and I root against the other team. And for some reason, there's like a visceral, innate reaction to that gives me joy or a lot of pain. And because I'm a Seattle Mariners fan, I go through a lot of pain. But the Seattle Seahawks have turned it around for me as of late. So,
hey, man, the Seahawks are 4-0, and Russell Wilson might be the MVP so far this year.
Yeah, he's been tremendous. But if Russell Wilson were to exhort me and lecture me and school me about racism, then I might be inclined to turn him off because I don't watch Russell Wilson for the politics.
1,000%. I always tell people when I buy a ticket to go watch a comedy show, I don't want the guy to open up the Bible and read to me about the Bible. As much as I'm a Catholic, I don't want to hear it.
But here's the thing: he has the absolute right to do so if he
on his own time.
Even on the time of the NBA, if the NBA allows it. I mean, I honestly, if the NBA wants to go down that road, then it's their right to do so. But I think they're going to turn off a lot of viewers.
And they have the finals. The game one from the finals, the Miami Lakers was the lowest viewed finals game in the history of the NBA. Nobody's watching. There were 4 million people who watched that game. I said to my cousin, who's a big NBA guy and always asks me why I don't speak NBA on my show. I said, because nobody cares. Right now, nobody cares. 4 million people is essentially half of New Jersey. That's who watched in a country of 350 million.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, I think what upsets me more than anything, Sergio, is that the national anthem, the flag, are things that all Americans should cherish and rally around because it's what we aspire to as a country. It should unite. But when they use it as something to divide, it really upsets me. The rest of the time, you can do whatever you want. But I honestly feel that we should give a time of respect and revere. I think those national things that should unite us. And so I just feel it cringy when I see people making political protests during that time. I don't like it. It does turn me off.
Dan, my brother, I appreciate the time. By the way, man, you got to tell Cesar I want to have him on the show later on. Maybe after the election.
No, yeah, Cesar's a good guy. He's shaking and baking over there down in Miami and making a big difference. Getting policy champions elected, advancing policies in Tallahassee, and then, of course, taking it to the folks in the media on Spanish language television. The guy's a superstar. Dan,
I love you, man. I appreciate you. You've always been there for me back when you were at the White House. When I went there, you're the reason why I got a chance to go into the White House legally.
Hermano, that means a lot, brother. That means a lot. Un fuerte abrazo, man. I'm here for you at any time, and I know you're there for me too.
I appreciate it. Dan
the
Garza
friends are the truest friends, brother.
Amen. Amen. Tell your daughter I said hello. Tell her she's a great follow on Twitter.
You got it. Camilita, she said hi back.
All right. Dan Garza from the Libre Initiative. Thank you very much, and thank you to our audience.